I'm really fascinated by Dionysian literature or poems attributed to him, because they say that he is the deity that like relieves humans of like worldly like attachments, shit, you know, and outside of working with Greco-Roman mythology, I'm creating my own mythology very slowly. One of the pieces is me covered in leaves. So this is the beginning. These are actual grape leaves, and I clothed myself in them with a necklace. One of the epithets of Dionysus is Chysophoros, which means Chysophoros, one of those, meaning like clothed in ivy, and I of course took it literally, and I made like an ivy necklace. I'm working on a series here called Metamorphosis. First one I just completed, which is this one here. If I were to translate it into English, it would be called Stone People. Laos, in this myth, there's a flood, there's a big flood, wipes everybody out, and then there are two people left, Deucalion and Pyrrha, his wife, and they were instructed to repopulate the earth by throwing rocks over their shoulder. And the rocks that Deucalion threw became the men, and the rocks that Pyrrha threw became the women. In the myth it said, and that's why the word Laos sounds like Las, because Laos is people, Las is stone. And I found that like etymological play very fascinating, and so I did a drawing of myself in gold point in kind of this rock hunched over pose. And now that I'm here, I wanted to use this space to kind of branch out and experiment more. And so I made a couple of studies for this Metamorphosis series. It was fine for the smaller pieces here, like studies, but I work very lightly, and it wasn't holding up to what I'm used to, which is the real deal. And so I was like, well, I have to make silver point ground. So I brought my crock pot. I tried it on a thinner paper, but it wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. There are all these lines. You can kind of see this vertical line action here. Yeah, I trace over it. I go over the back with soft charcoal, and then I'll place it on and then trace it again, and I'll take it off and I'll trace over that with charcoal. I mean, not charcoal, with silver point or gold point, and then brush everything off. I love that like deep red color. It is just an excuse for me to use it, but also obviously inspired by the red vase paintings. I love that like deep red color. It is just an excuse for me to use it, but also obviously inspired by the red vase paintings. So when all that police brutality stuff happened, that kind of was the catalyst for making this more violent series. But then I thought about it in another term, where if there's red figure vase paintings, there's also black figure vase paintings. I can't ignore that. There's also white ground vase paintings, which is a third character that I made, which is up top. So I had the red vase character for the violence. I had then created the black figure vase paintings as another character that has nothing to do with the violence. It has more of like the stoic presence, where like if the red figure vase character had like cymbals clashing behind it as the sound, the black figure vase painting would have like a slow hum, like a low hum sound. Black figure vase painting kind of talks about that diversity. It's also myself, and then it's also this. It does. If you were looking at this with an American point of view, there's also blackface. What is interesting to me, or what I try to do, is move this idea of the black figure away from negative connotation. And it started with that piece up there, 2 masks. Him being the face is a mask, but he's also wearing a red mask, which red, the violence. The queerness element isn't in these, but it started from the black figure vase painting character, where like the black figure vase painting character has this stoic quality, this presence, this here-ness, now-ness thing. And I had the opportunity to draw and eventually show at the Institute of Classical Architecture and Art. And they have a cast hall, and I drew from their sculptures, one of which was a sculpture of crouching Aphrodite. And so I drew the sculpture, and then I drew myself in the pose, because I'm also capable of love. We all are. She is in this pose of like, the sculpture is catching her in the act of like washing, but she's covering up. I just fell in love with these like really specific moments in that sculpture, and I was like, how do I respond to that? Of course, the same way I respond to everything else. I draw myself. And so it was taking this newly acquired thought of self-love into drawing form, where I, as a black queer man, am not representing another black queer man, but I'm representing myself in a pose attributed to Aphrodite, which in itself is a type of really beautiful act, I feel. And it was like hard, you know, coming from that, where it's like violence, blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, well, let's switch it. Let's talk about the love. Let's talk about sensuality of the flesh. That's like another thing that has been really interesting to me in drawing is, of course, form, cool, whatever, 3-dimensional, but then there's flesh, how it falls on the muscle, how it has like little dots in it, scars, the way it moves. I started to find that very interesting. The first drawing that kind of did that was this one here. So in the drawing, I'm drunk. Actually, I took a video of myself dancing while drunk and took a still and made this drawing. This is the first one where I really thought about sensuality of the flesh versus just drawing form. Where I'm like really carefully like taking the stylus and I'm like drawing the neck so softly. And that was like a really interesting experience for me, because I started to like myself more and see myself in this new light. So now I can look at this and say, damn, that's a good ear, or damn, that's a really good neck, or I love my knees. That's what this one is called, like a hymn to my knees. The one with the Aphrodite is hymn to my back, where my body is poetry at this point, not just a body. It's poetry, and that for me is where the sort of what I'm learning through this process of autodidactic freedom, this queerness, and exploring what like autodidactic freedom means for me. And for me, that type of freedom is using my body to mean other things. My body can mean, or it can be attributed to kind of themes that Aphrodite was used for, or my body can be used for themes that hypnos was used for, or my body can be used for like talking about like my strong presence. All of those things I feel like my body's capable of, and the only way I can find that out is through the process of drawing. And I think that is, for me, really beautiful. It's very like psychologically new for me. And I love how organically that kind of trickled into how I started to see and express and depict myself. And I feel like that is an aspect of queerness that not had to learn, but like it's an aspect of queerness that found me rather than me looking for it per se.